I'm author Mark Muncy,
And I'm author Erika Lance.
and this is Eerie Travels. Greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers.
Oh my gosh, it's been a bit, right?
It
It's
has. I mean, I haven't been without you in my life, but it has definitely been
no.
a bit since we recorded.
Yeah, I things are afoot. We can't talk much about them, but hopefully by this time this airs, things are a little less afoot, and we'll be
Yes.
able to talk about them. So, but just know, watch our website. Some changes are occurring, and
Good changes.
good
God,
changes,
you just made it
appearances,
sound ominous, Mark. What are you doing?
appearances. Plan for a big September. We're coming to Dragon Con, and we are bringing the Eerie Travels podcast is going to be broadcasting another live episode from Dragon Con. We just got approval as we recorded. So
Oh, wow. I can tell we
yeah,
just got approval because you didn't even tell me.
I didn't even tell you because I was like, I want to see your reaction on the episode. I was like, yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. They were like, is this Erika Lance? You sure? I'm like, yes, they will do it. Trust me.
What's funny to me about Dragon Con is when you talk about other people that are guests there and you go, hey, I want to do this thing. They get very like,
Yeah.
you,
And what's funny is the email I got from the head of the track was like, hey, last year you did these panels and you got the highest ratings of like any panels on our thing. So I was like, you like me, you really like me. And they were like, so what are you doing this time? And I'm like, well, we have this podcast now and we would love to do it live there. And she was like, oh, yeah. So I was like, yes. So thank you, Dragon Con, for having us back and putting up with us. We are
absolutely.
so excited for that. That's just going to be amazing. And then on top of that, like just 2 weeks after, we will be going to Mothman Festival. Oh
Mothman
my
Festival.
gosh.
Oh, you
And
know what you didn't say before that though, and this will air before that, is you're gonna be at no, sorry, we're gonna be at Smoky Mountain Bigfoot July 22nd.
July, yeah. So this is all, I mean, we've got so many events coming up, gang. Like I said, it's just getting started too. And if you have an event that you like that is in your neck of the woods and you want us to come there, reach out to that event. Don't pester them, but just tell them, hey, we love Mark and Erika. We want Callie to come out and produce. And the more people that kind of just a few individuals tell them, then they realize, hey, there's a demand there, and we'd love to come out to your event. We just did a little event in a Popka because people asked for me. So that's how we do it. We'd love to do every con we can, but we need to be invited. So, and we try to find the ones we can. So
We're like vampires. We need to be invited.
must be invited in. Yes, exactly.
You
Unless
must
the
have
Twilight vampires, you don't have to be invited in. So
actually they
oh,
do.
do they?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, then there's their weakness. Oh, suddenly they're no longer as powerful as they
No,
once
don't.
were.
We're
We
not.
need
We're
to
not
redo.
rehashing this, Mark. We've
We
talked
need to
about
redo
this.
that
We
whole
are not
episode.
rehashing this at all under any circumstances. No rehashing.
But
So
I think you have a paranormality.
I do. I have a parent. I wanted to share this because it reminded me of something, and I know that we're going to be talking about scary things.
Oh yeah, we're on the road to Mothman, and we're going to start it here. So
Okay, so here we go. Ready? I'm going to do it really creepy.
I'm excited. Oh, let's do it
Okay,
creepy.
so breaking news. Okay, so wife hears voice from the husband's grave. He was alive. So this reminded me of, oh, I just got chills. This reminded me of something which we haven't really talked about on the show, but eventually I think we should talk about it, is they used to attach a bell to people in the coffin.
Yep.
They'd attach a bell, so they'd still bury it, but there'd be a bell and a string because they weren't really great at telling when people were actually dead,
Or
right?
in a coma, or in a thing, or some of those sleep diseases.
Exactly. And so they bury them alive.
Yep.
So
And a lot of people had that fear. I mean, look, Edgar Allan Poe wrote about that, a ton. So that was his greatest fear.
I'm not claustrophobic. Nope, nope,
No,
nope, not gonna be.
nope, nope, nope.
Nope, nope, nope. So it turns out in China, this gentleman was dying. He had a disease. He did have a disease. He was dying, but his mother found him in his bed, and somehow he got declared dead. When his wife was doing the final funeral things, she heard stuff coming from the grave, and it was her husband's voice. And it turned out that oxygen deprivation woke him.
Oh yeah.
And so they got him out of the grave. Unfortunately, he died a short time later, but
He was still
it's
very
it's
sick.
still
So
happening. I think if you're not gonna actually do a full like embalming and really super make sure the person's dead, I think you should do the bell thing. I think we need to go
that's
back to the bell
well,
in the
you know,
grave.
the whole point of the people who sat in the graveyards at night and were paid to listen for the bells are they were working the graveyard shift. So that's the
Ooh.
historical tie there. And then supposedly we get the expression saved by the bell from that, but I don't think that actually comes from that. But the
Yeah,
graveyard shift does come from that.
yeah, no, I don't buy that second one, but the first one. So I just thought, Mark, if I happen to go before you, you need
Yep.
to make the
Tie a
agreement with
bell
me.
to your
I
toe.
want a bell. I don't care
Okay.
if you're super sure I'm dead because I got obliterated into a million pieces. I want a bell.
Yeah. All right. All right. Mine, you know me, I'm not gonna wind up in a grave. I'm gonna just disappear one day and the men in black claim me. So, that's
Well, that's what, and I'm gonna just pretend like I didn't know you after that point, even though
exactly.
we have
Please
all these
do. Please
recordings. So
do, because it's coming. Callie's
it might be
convinced.
both of us. Who knows if we keep.
At this point, we've kind of rubbed some feathers apparently. So some of these emails have been exciting. So please, gang, keep sending your listener stories, keep sending your tales. Oh my gosh, we've got so much. So that was from Paranormality Magazine, our
Yes.
wonderful friends there. And you can get headlines like that at paranormalitymag.com. And then you can get the in-depth articles from their actual digital magazine or their physical magazine. And if you order them with the code TRAVELS, you get 10% off, and it lets them know, hey, that you heard it here on Eerie Travels. So
You're listening, and I'll tell you, it's great. So the one cool thing about Paranormality Magazine, I think as well, is that all of us go to the bathroom. This is a
right.
known fact, and it is a great fun read if you
Yes.
just have a couple minutes. Like if you want something to, there's so much negative news and things like that. So if you want something that will truly distract you almost as much as a TikTok video,
Right.
Paranormality Magazine, and it's really inexpensive for the whole year. I added this
Yep.
up because I know what my coffee order is. Normally it's Starbucks, and it actually would only take 4 of my coffees to have a subscription to Paranormality
for a full
Magazine.
year. Yeah. I mean, hey, we are advertising. We admit it. It's an advertisement, but come on, it's worth it. We're not advertising anything we don't believe in. So this is an amazing
Totally.
magazine, and they're just awesome. And the online stuff is great too. So don't discount that. And that's free. So just go there and have fun. There's a link in our description below. So
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what are we talking about today, Mark?
okay, since we are heading to Mothman Festival in a few months, I figured we'd do once a month. We would discuss some wonderful holler monster legends, ghostly legends, and all that of wild and weird West Virginia. And maybe even a little bit of Ohio, since it's in Gallipolis, the bridge kind of between the two states. So I thought we would talk a couple of amazing ghosts. And the plus side is, you know what this weekend is Mother's Day. So
Mother's Day.
So I thought we would tie it in to some wonderful, historical mothers that also are kind of spooky and ghostly. And these are two of my favorite folklore legends from the Mountain State, right?
Okay.
And one of them starts in Mountain State, but then moves to Alabama real quickly. But she kind of counts because, and I'm gonna start with her. Okay.
Okay. I'm buckled in.
Okay, because as I was researching Erie, Appalachia, I had started hearing these stories about a ghost in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, known as Screaming Jenny. And it was a very cool Screaming Jenny. Now, what was cool about her is that she, was at this Harper's Ferry train station, and she apparently got hit by a train, and her ghost comes screaming down the tracks And there's, it's kind of a neat, just basic little ghostly legend of of a screaming banshee like a apparition there. But as I was researching it, I got a letter from this lady who said,
Okay.
"Hey, I know the story of Screaming Jenny." And I'm like, "Ooh." And it was, wait, she was born in Kentucky. She lived in West Virginia and then moved to Alabama. And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. Didn't she die on the train tracks in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia?" She's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, maybe this is a conflagration of stories, how these stories sometimes migrate and sometimes get confused." But the cool thing about this Aunt Jenny was she is called Aunt Jenny. She didn't become Screaming Jenny until she became a ghost in Alabama.
Okay.
But
Okay. So,
now I want you to fall in love with this person,
wow,
okay?
that's a tall order there. Are they going to buy
Because
me
I
flowers
think
and chocolate?
I think, Erika, these two ghosts I'm going to describe to you today are going to be the most vengeful demonesses that you are going to fall
Oh,
in.
I love a good retribution ghost. So,
Right, right. Anyway, um, so now when I say Aunt Jenny, a lot of people think of Aunt Jenny's catfish. And then it was actually Aunt Jenny's vegetable shortening way back in the 60s and stuff. That has nothing to do with this. All right.
okay.
This is all right. So her name was Louise Jane Brooks, and she was half Cherokee, had blue eyes, deep blue eyes, everybody said, but otherwise looked like a full native Cherokee.
Okay.
And so just imagine that. And everybody said she was a looker. Now, remember the time period. Okay, gang, this is the 1800s. So she was 13 when she was married to Willis Brooks.
Yeah.
Okay, he was 30. So, but everybody said they were very much in love.
Well, and the lifespan of people back then
Back
is not
then,
what it was here. So,
exactly, 30 years old, you're lucky to still be alive. It's living to 50 is a brilliant thing.
yeah.
Well, they had 9 children.
Well,
Yes, in the 1850s.
that's a lot of
And
kids. That's a lot
yeah,
of
a lot of
kids.
kids as they moved from where they were when she was born in Kentucky. They moved to West Virginia and Harper's Ferry area when they started having kids. And then there were rumblings. Now, it wasn't West Virginia then, it was just Virginia then. They started hearing rumblings of these troubles that were coming, and they didn't want any part of it. So they moved as far away as they could. They moved to Alabama. And in Alabama, they opened an inn right on the road that leads to the Mississippi River.
Okay, which is
Uh,
a good
This is
place because it's well
north,
traveled.
yeah,
Well
North
traveled.
Alabama, nice big road. And the rumblings happen. The Civil War breaks out. And
Okay.
they are in this area of Alabama where they think they can kind of stay neutral because it's kind of a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. They don't want anything to do with it. We're going to just be this neutral zone, running our inn, right?
Okay.
Now this goes well for a little bit. Now the second year of the Civil War goes on. The Confederates are starting to get a little more desperate because they don't have the manpower. So they institute a draft. Now, the draft says you don't have to go fight if you own X many slaves. You don't have to fight if you can pay somebody $300 to fight in your stead.
Oh
So
wow.
it was very much the rich people could afford to not go, right? But
Wow.
they still weren't meeting their quotas. So they have this group called the Confederate Old Guard. And the Confederate Old Guard is basically exactly what it sounds like. Two guys too old to fight, but they can be tax collectors and they can basically be a press gang to get people to fight. So
Great. So you rounded up a bunch of bitter old men.
yep. And they go to Jenny and her husband's inn
Okay.
and they say, "Hey, your son needs to go fight in the war. And they go, well, he's too young to fight. He's not even 10 years old yet, or he's just turning 11, I think, at this point.
Okay.
And oh, goodness. Sorry.
Technical difficulties for a
difficulties,
second.
gang. Please edit that, Callie.
She's
And
not
you know who
going
that
to.
was? Val. So
Our friend Val.
our friend Val. So who was a guest on a recent episode. So all right,
Okay.
back to the story. Edit that, Callie, please.
She's probably
right.
not going to, but let's continue.
Probably not. Whatever. It is what it is. That's my ringtone, gang. Yes, Vincent Price. All right. So back to the story. So they come and they say, your son needs to go to war. And they're like, no, he can't go to war. He's too young. And they go, well, then you're going to the dad. And the dad's like, I can't go. I'm too old. At this point, he's in his 40s, and that's past
old.
wartime.
Yeah.
And I've got this in. I've got 9 kids. And I'm like, well, we're taking your son. He's like, no. And so he starts sparring with them. And guess what? They decide we're going to kill you. So they take him out to hang him. Now, at this point, the young son, the oldest son, runs into the inn and grabs his dad's gun. And he comes running out to save his father. So what do? They gun him down, and then they hang the dad.
Oh no.
Now,
I don't love that.
As the whole family, Jenny and her other children are forced to watch.
Ugh.
So they leave. Now, any other lady, what would, in the Civil War time would be distraught, would be the end of the family, whatever. She, with her Cherokee heritage, takes all of her children over to the bodies of her son and her husband, and she makes them all put their hands on the open wound and the neck wound, and she makes them make a Cherokee blood oath that none of them will rest until all 8 of the Confederate Guard have been hunted down and slain.
Do not piss off women. Women can be, I think men are vengeful.
So,
women, whole new level. I love her already.
Louisa Jane becomes Aunt Jenny at this point, and she starts teaching her boys how to shoot. She starts teaching them how to use guns. She starts licensing them out as bodyguards, as gunmen, as she sends them off with other trappers. She sends them off with other groups to become the best they can be at trackers and things to hunt this group down. Now, almost immediately, she finds 2 of them in town, and she takes them out herself.
Good.
With a knife, apparently, with the help of her boys. And then the others scatter to the 4 winds. And so as the boys get older, they start going out on their own as hired guns. The war is over, but she sends them out west because she thinks the bad guys of the Confederate Guard has fled out west. That's what she hears rumors of. So some of them join gangs. One of them apparently joins Billy the Kid's gang. One of them joins the Dalton gang. One of them becomes a marshal and is fighting gangs. 2 others join different sides of the Hatfields and McCoys fight as hired gunmen. All the while, they're looking for the 8 Confederate Guard. Well, now the 6. And
okay,
she remarries. God bless her.
Okay.
Marries another man and has 10 more children. The woman had 19 children. Her new kids have nothing to do with the gunfights or anything. She's raising them as proper kids, for the new family. Aunt Jenny lives to be 84 years old. An incredible feat at that time, especially with 20 children.
Wow.
All of her boys from that first marriage wind up taking out 5 other of the Confederate Guard.
So that's 7 total, right?
Yep. 1 got away.
Okay.
Now she reads about the deaths of all of her boys in various gunfights and all this. Her last son, who was the marshal, was in a gunfight with 21 men, and she was so proud of him because he took out 7 of them before they got him.
Okay.
So she was famously quoted as saying, "All my boys died like men with their boots on."
Okay.
And she also was talking about how she wasted many a keg of powder teaching them boys how to shoot. You know, you
Well,
gotta love this.
so it paid off well, them boys. It paid off well.
Yep. So as she's laying on her deathbed, she has decided, she calls for the priest to wash away her sin. She has a soap dish that she carved using her Cherokee techniques, that she would like to wash away her sin so that she can be read her last rites and go on. And so he brings her this odd dish and she washes away, and then she's like, "All right, Father, I'm ready." He reads her rites and she literally passes away that moment. And as the priest is walking away with the soap dish, he looks down at it and realizes it's really weird. It had been carved out of the skull of one of the men that she had killed, one of the first Confederate guard. Right? I said, you froze on the best screen ever, Erika. I wish you could see yourself. This is amazing.
Oh my God. So I love her. I love her very much. I love her so much in the face. So I would like to know where the soap dish is now. But so okay, so now we're at her death, correct?
Yes, correct. She has passed away after, as a badass. I mean, come on. You don't go out better than that.
She absolutely got to go big.
So her boys were gone. Everything was gone. Now the rest of her family is moving on, but her spirit is seen throughout the Appalachians looking for the last man. And the reason it's her, it's this dark, scary shape, right? It's almost Hatman-ish the way it's described, like a dark shade, but bright blue eyes, those eyes of Jenny. And she screams at you to chase you away and to scare you away because she's hunting that last man. And she has been seen, of course, her grave is in Alabama, but this ghost has been reported all up and down the Appalachians because she's still looking for this guy. She isn't haunting a place. She's on a blood trail. She wants this guy or his relatives, according to the story now. And that's where I think Screaming Jenny and Harper's Ferry might be her coming back that way, or maybe that's where she, because that was an area she spent some time, so maybe that's why the two stories mix.
We need to research this a little more, my friend, because first of all, let me give full mad props to this woman.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're going to do
James
something
Brooks,
like that, you chose the wrong human, now not human, to mess with.
Right.
So mad props, Jenny. Mad props. Second of all, mad props for surviving 9 births during that time period, because
19 with the second marriage, 10 more with the second marriage. Jeez.
Yeah, no. So well done on not dying during childbirth for all of that. So I'm going to give mad props there too. But I think we should, and we'll just make a little note about this, investigate the Screaming Jenny, because Jenny was a very common name.
Very common name. Yeah.
So they could be a different, but I think it's interesting, and it would be interesting for a paranormal researcher, those listening, to look into encountering this particular ghost and letting her know the death of this 8th person, because I think ghosts lose track of time. That is my personal opinion. I don't think they get time passes.
Now, to go visit Jenny's grave, it's out on this 9 miles out on a logging road in North Alabama.
Of course it is. Why
would it is literally in the middle of nowhere. That was her homestead, and her property, and the Brooks family cemetery is still there. All the stones are pretty banged up, except for hers, because she was a famous, folklore hero now. and people would come and they stole her stone a few times and all that, sadly, So now there is a huge slab. The Friends of Aunt Jenny organized this huge slab, and they are restoring the graveyard, but no one can steal this thing unless they have a forklift. It's not going anywhere.
So where is
But
this?
this is in North Alabama. I have the details
In the show notes. So if you guys want to travel,
I will send the location, and the Poplar Spring Cemetery for those Googling it. And it is a hike. Download your GPS before you go, because there is no signal there, and it is a dirt road. Thankfully pretty well traveled logging road, so it's not terrible. Go at the right time of year because it is bug infested. But the nice thing about it is people go there and leave offerings for Jenny. Now, this is kind of like a reverse Robert the Doll, where you go there, Robert, you don't want to mess with. This one, people go to Jenny and they leave her offerings, and they leave names. And they say, this is the descendant of the guy that you're looking for. Go get him.
Wow.
Ghostly hit woman.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't love that, because the descendants aren't necessarily the same as the person. And so don't sick people on other people unless they're evil, and then go ahead, have at it.
And that's what people are saying. They do it to get rid of evil people. And
So,
but no stories so far if she's actually accomplished any missions. She has not been seen for some time, but I think she's out hunting still. But maybe she's found rest. Maybe she got him.
I hope she found rest, and I hope she got him. I will say this too, though, as a little disclaimer, my fellow travelers. And we're actually going to have swag. We forgot to talk about that.
Oh, yeah,
we have swag
got
at some of our booths. So if you wanted some traveling swag, we're going to have that. But do not take things from
grave
cemeteries. I was calling them gravestones. Do not take gravestones. Do not take souvenirs.
No.
Do not take things like that. If there are wildflowers and whatever, if you feel like picking one, whatever. But leave people's resting places alone. Like,
take only pictures, leave only footprints. But
exactly.
if you want to leave her an offering, hey, just a coin, something nice. I'm sure she likes flowers. And it definitely could use it out there. It is a very remote cemetery.
So be careful going out there. And with that, I think we're going to take a quick break. How's that sound?
Before we hit site 2.
Yes. Okay. We'll be right back with Eerie Travels.
Erie, Appalachia. Gear up for a frightful jaunt into the darkest reaches of the ancient Appalachians. Folks deep within the Appalachian hollers lean close to the campfire to share stories of the inexplicable with hushed awe. Monsters rumbling in the hills, strange lights darting through the pitch black night sky, horrible occurrences almost ineffable in their bizarre tragedy. Tall tales, you might say. Tell that to the Flatwoods monster in Braxton County, West Virginia, or the Goat Man of Louisville. Look into his humanoid eyes and let him know you don't believe. And what of those apparitions in Mammoth Cave's Corpse Rock, or the Satan spawn known as the Jersey Devil? How do you respond when confronted by these mysteries? From the metaphysical energy that swirls near Serpent Mound in Ohio to Point Pleasant's Mothman legacy, Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz explore the dark history lurking in the shadows of Appalachia. Read by Mark Muncy, author and experts on strange folklore with appearances on shows such as Ancient Aliens, The Curse of Robert the Doll, and many, many more.
Greetings, mortals and others. I'm Dick Terhune, the voice from hell. I work with haunted attractions all over the US, Canada, and Europe to increase audiences and enhance their experience with highly effective commercials, narrations, animatronic character voices, whatever your dark heart desires. Let me help you do more, scare more, profit more. Find out more at Voice from Hell on Facebook and at voicefromhell.com.
So we are back, and Ginny is now one of my favorite superheroes.
I told you you'd love her, so
I do. But you have somebody else that I'm going to love too,
now,
right?
This one is unique in history, and I think you're going to be like, "What?" I mean, she's not as is she not as badass as Jenny? I think there's other ways that she is more badass than Jenny in some ways.
Okay, this is a lot. This is a
But-
lot you're prepping.
But it is, there's good. This is almost a, this is a true crime story. So I'm going to trigger warning now. If you are wanting to avoid a true crime murder, although we had a little bit in the earlier parts.
No, I
this
was
one
about to say
is a
we
little more
tried
graphic.
to hang people from trees and stuff. I think now is not the time for a trigger warning.
I know, but still, I just think.
Okay.
one-
Suddenly, after break trigger warning, suddenly
Yeah.
Mark's got a conscience.
Well, this one's got it. So, all right. So in January 23rd, 1897, in Greenbrier, West Virginia, which is kind of up towards the Panhandle area,
Okay.
a young lady named Zona Hester Shue.
I love the name Hester.
Hester, and I like Zona. It's a great name too.
Yes.
I think her full name is Elva Zona Hester Shue, but
Wow.
but everybody called her Zona or Hester. Anyway, she was found dead by one of the little boys in town at the feet of her stairs. Just done. So
Dead?
yeah, dead. So she was a young lady. So he runs to town to tell her husband.
Okay.
Now her husband's Erasmus Stribling Shoe. You gotta like that name, Erasmus, right?
Wow.
And apparently, he's like, oh, Zona, oh no, so he comes running home, and they grab the doc in town, and the doc, Dr. Knapp, he's the the town doctor. He's brings you into the world, he takes you out of the world, all that. So he's there. The husband's there. The husband is just so distraught. His young bride, dead on the floor. So he's holding her head. Oh God, and the doctor does the, post-mortem basically while he's sitting there, and says that she died of a prolonged faint, which
That's not
we
a faint.
would say is a heart attack nowadays, most likely. That's
I
kind of
was
what
going to
most
say
of those were.
a prolonged faint. That's not a
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah, and some of the death was said she could have been childbirth, right? That she might have been with child and this just failed. So there were a couple questions about it, right? He listed it as prolonged faint.
okay.
She was buried just a few weeks later, the next day, in the local cemetery. And now the husband had given her this beautiful scarf that he wrapped around her neck, and then he stayed at the head of her casket for the whole ceremony, wouldn't leave her side. He was so distraught. And then
Okay.
she's buried, and that was it. Now her mother, about a week later, says Zona showed up at her bed and said, I did not die of childbirth. I did not die. I was murdered. And my husband is not who he says he is. My husband was named Trout.
Wow.
And so, what is it? So
Dead people visiting me is not something I enjoy. I'm not a big fan of Sixth Sense kind of situations. Just
Right.
saying that.
and especially if it's your daughter who you're just getting over her death or trying to get over her death, and then
I was
suddenly
going to say, in a week, we're not getting over her death. We're still
No,
coming
no.
to grips with the fact she died.
Yeah.
And for her to show up and go, yeah, so I was murdered and it was my hubby.
So what do you do if you're the mother with this information?
I kill him.
Okay, see,
That's
that would have
probably
been
not the right answer, but anyway, continue.
1890s. We're civilized now. This isn't Wild West anymore. This is Victorian era.
I think I'd be more Calamity Jane in these Wild West
Actually, you
situations,
you
but
and Jenny
continue.
would get along better. But the fact that she came back from the dead to finger point at her murderer, right? So mother goes to the prosecutor in town, John Alfred Preston,
Ooh,
and
that is a
says,
very prosecutorial name.
right, well, especially West Virginia. And
Yeah.
she sits there and says, you have to reopen this case. And she sits there with him for hours to convince him to reopen the case. He refuses to because it's a ghost telling me to reopen a murder case. You gotta be crazy.
Well, or even to open a murder case, because it's not
Right.
like it was open to begin with.
Right, exactly. He died. So he calls Dr. Knapp. And Dr. Knapp says, well, I may have been hasty. So so then they go talk to some other people, and then they find out Erasmus did have another name. He was known as Trout at another town where he had a previous wife who had died of unnatural causes.
I don't like
She
this.
had a rock fell on her head while they were building a new chimney, and it was a tragedy. He had accidentally dropped a rock on her head.
A rock fell on her head.
Well, yeah, the husband dropped it. He admitted he dropped it, but it was an accident.
I don't know. No.
All right. Then they found out he had a previous wife that had also died of falling down some stairs.
Oh, yeah, no, this is not good. His wives have lots of yeah, no.
So because of that, Preston then decides we need to make a complete examination of the body.
Yeah, I would think so.
Sufficient justification finally for a full autopsy. An inquest jury was, formed. Then,
Okay.
so now it's mid-February, and they actually dug up Zona and brought her out and did the autopsy in the one-room schoolhouse that's there in West Virginia.
Of course.
That turned into the morgue at this point. The quote from the report published on March 9th, less than a few weeks later.
Okay.
The discovery was made that the neck was broken and the windpipe smashed. On the throat were the marks of fingers indicating she had been choked. The neck.
And he was holding her head when she was
right. That brand new scarf he gave her.
Yeah.
The neck was dislocated between the first and second vertebrae. The ligaments were torn and ruptured. The windpipe had been crushed at a point in the front of the neck. Shu said, well, you can't prove I did it. That was his quote. That's the kind of stuff the juries really agonize over when someone says a quote like that.
Yeah, no, this is the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. So more information comes out about he had yet another first wife that ended in divorce with his wife accusing him of cruelty. And so he had 4 marriages, right? And he also began talk of wanting to marry another woman while he was in jail. And because he was so sure he was going to be let free because there was so little evidence against him. And it was one of those kind of early days, where those women write serial killers saying they want to marry them and stuff like that. So he had a pen pal that was apparently ready to marry him because he was going through so much trouble for all this.
Oh my gosh.
So, so the trial begins in June, and Mary Jane was the prosecutor's star witness. They skirt the whole thing about the ghost, right? But then the defense is like, you're saying it's a ghost, you're crazy, and they're trying to prove her unreliable, right? And the tactic totally backfires. The jury loves her and is convinced the ghost is, caused all this and figured all this out. So the judge kept telling the jury, disregard the ghost story, but
could you imagine this happening
today, right?
Court right now,
right?
Like, ignore the ghost. Like, I can't even imagine that conversation.
Yep. So on July 11th, Erasmus Shue Trout was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison in Moundsville Penitentiary.
I love that.
And
May he
the
rot in
quote
hell.
from the newspaper: "The Greenbrier Ghost was never mentioned by prosecution and played no part in the case against Shue." So a lynch mob comes out and is like, "We're gonna hang this guy," but the sheriff quickly says, "Nope, we got this. It's done." So now 4 of those mob organizers actually went to prison too. So that'll just tell you how justice works in West Virginia. So
Yeah, no, that's true justice, I have to say,
Yep.
which I'm sure is not the case always. And yeah, but I'm glad to hear that it did work that time.
Yep. So 3 years later, Erasmus dies March 13th in 1900 in West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, which is still there.
Okay.
He was some weird illness that they could not figure out what it was. It was kind of like a pandemic was hitting them. They couldn't tell if it was yellow fever or something else, but it hit the prison pretty hard. But he was one of the main victims, one of the first victims. And he's buried in an unmarked grave at the site. Oh, darn. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Now, whereas Zona Hester,
Miss
she
Hester.
has become, again, a folk hero because she came back from the grave and legally set a precedent to convict her
What
own
I
murderer.
want is you know what research we have to do at some point, Mark?
Yeah.
We got to do research to see if that case was ever brought up in any other cases as a foundation for conviction, because yes, that is badass. Take out your tormentor, have your mom who would listen to you, pick the right person who would listen to you,
Right.
come back and go, I'm gonna need you to solve that. I love every bit of this story.
Isn't it? Now, how is that for a mother, right? She was a young mother, and there we go. So
Yeah, no,
2
and
great
yeah,
mothers for Mother's Day, coming back from the dead, wreaking vengeance. Come on.
I love vengeance-seeking moms. Do not mess with moms of any kind, because
Exactly.
yes, but that's
So,
amazing.
yep. Now, Zona's has a marker
Okay.
for the story of the Greenbrier Ghost it's not actually in Greenbrier, it's in Smoot, West Virginia. And you can go down the highway and you'll see this marker that reads, "Interred in a nearby cemetery is Zona Hester Shue. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband, Edward. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to the state prison. It is the only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer." That's on the state historical marker.
I love that. And I love that you can go visit and get a picture with good old Jenny, not Jenny,
Yeah.
Hester.
Hester, yeah.
And if you go, don't forget to bring a little something for her. I would drop a flower or something, because she seems like she deserves that.
And again, for a while, her stone was vandalized, her stone was taken. And so she has a nice new stone as well. It's not a big slab like Aunt Jenny, but it's a pretty impressive stone. So I don't think anybody's going to steal it again. It is at the Soule Cathedral, Soule. And that's her grave is out behind it. You can visit that. It's a little ways from her marker, but it's pretty amazing place. It's beautiful. I went in the fall. There were so many leaves, and her grave's out looking over it all. I'm like, good for you, Zona. Good for you. Yeah,
I love that. And you know what? When you guys come see us up at Mothman, hit these things up on the way. Make it a road trip. Make it fun.
That's what we're gonna be doing these episodes so that you can go visit there, go visit this, go visit that. These are little places that we're gonna do. Of course, everybody thinks about Mothman, but we're gonna give you some places nearby that are just as much fun. And now, while you're there, our good buddy Dave Spinks, who runs Dave Spinks World of Weird in Richwood, West Virginia, is just a few miles away. That's your second travel there.
That's the third.
That's third. 3. Yeah, because we've got Harper's Ferry. Yeah, there. All right, whatever. So yeah, it's all good. But Dave,
I'll do the math on this show there, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not a math. I'm a writer. So but he has a store near there where, you know, now he's been on Unexplained with William Shatner. He's been on Finding Bigfoot, Dead Files. He's on more shows than, you know, than me, which is, you know, saying something. But we love him. Dave is a great guy, and he's got a shop there with his partner Serenity Jenny. She runs the psychic portion of the place, so it's a little place, and they do an event every year. They do a Monster Fest in their shop. We're gonna hopefully be up there to be a guest one time. But it's an amazing little shop in an amazing little town, and then you can go visit, go visit Hester's place, just a short while away.
I love that. I love that. Well, now you have two badass women ghosts to visit.
Yeah.
And you can go to the weird place. And I love all of that. And this has been super exciting. And don't forget, if you're going to bury people, put a bell. I'm just going to remind everybody.
Put a bell. Yeah, that way,
Circle it back.
one bell for yes, two bells for no, and you can do your own trial there too. So
oh yeah, let's not summon things. Okay. Talk about this. Let's not give advice to summon things. So we'll leave that to the professionals.
Oh man. Yeah, it was there. There's been some adaptations of both of these ladies' stories that you can find. But they're in my book, Eerie Appalachia, both of them, because I love them so much. And
if you have any stories, listeners, about these ghosts, share them with us. EerieTravels.com. You can find the book, Eerie Appalachia, and you can share your story with us.
Yeah, boom, boom. Look at that. And that's
awesome.
All on the road, to Mothman, and we will be talking more about this. I figure every few weeks we'll jump into this and give everybody another West Virginia tale that you may not know, a little less famous than Mr. Big Mothman, but we're going to be talking about him soon enough. So.
Yeah, we will. And I get to grab the Mothman butt. I can't wait till that happens.
Hey, you got to touch the shiny hiney. There is the cult of the shiny hiney up there.
The cult of the shiny hiney. I love it. Well, Mark, I think that wraps us up.
I think it does. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe as always. Support our sponsors. Thank you so much. And we'll let Destiny play us out. And as always, we'll see you on the other side.